The night Kalu Adeyemi called the police, he was alone in his glass-walled office on the 20th floor, watching his children sleep on a screen. The city below Banana Island glimmered like a bowl of scattered stars. The server rack hung behind him. 6 weeks earlier, Kalu had installed hidden cameras all over his house. Tiny eyes tucked in smoke detectors, picture frames, and the nursery ceiling. He told himself it was for peace of mind. He told himself it was for the triplets, Zuri, Zayn, and Zion, who were 4 years old and loved to point at airplanes and call them angels. It was 1:57 a.m. when the nursery camera flickered. Kalu leaned forward, one hand flat on the desk. The night vision view washed the room in pale green. 3 small beds, 3 small chests at the foot of each bed, the soft hum of the air conditioner. A shadow moved across the floor, quiet and quick. The figure stopped by Zuri's bed. A woman's shape. The maid, Nia. Kalu tapped the zoom. Nia wore a gray hoodie over her uniform. Her hair was wrapped. She had removed her shoes and carried them in one hand. In the other hand, she held something small and dark. She placed it under Zuri's pillow. Then she repeated the same on Zayn's and Zion's beds. 3 objects hidden in 3 pillows. She did not tuck the blankets back the way she always did. She did not stretch a hand to smooth a curl on anyone's forehead. She moved like someone counting seconds. Kalu's jaw tightened. He reached for the mouse and switched to the hallway camera. The corridor to the nursery was empty. The living room camera showed the wide leather sofas and the glow of the aquarium at the far wall. The kitchen camera caught a sliver of the service entrance, the door that opened to the quiet street behind the house. The kitchen feed blinked. A man stood at the service door. He wore a dark cap and a surgical mask. He tapped his wrist twice, like a signal. Nia turned, as if she felt it. She pressed her palm to the nursery camera, then pulled back and looked straight into the lens. Kalu's phone buzzed on the desk. A security system notification. Motion detected. Service entrance. He swiped it away. He tapped the intercom icon. The house speakers were tied to his laptop. "Nia," he said, his voice low and even, "what are you doing?" She flinched, eyes searching for sound. Slowly, she raised her head and looked up at the ceiling. "Sir," she whispered, "please, don't be alarmed. What did you put under my children's pillows?" Kalu asked. His heart beat so hard he could feel it in his throat, but his voice stayed smooth. He had built a company by staying calm when the market panicked. "Trackers," she said. "Tiny GPS trackers." "Why?" His hand hovered over the red icon marked police. "Because they came tonight," she said. The words hurried but controlled. "They waited for your lights to go off. They have a car at the back gate. Sir, I heard the driver on the phone. He said the name. He said, Marble Contract. They know the children's route to school. They know the driver's habits. They said they will take 2, leave 1, and call for money." Kalu's fingers tightened into a fist. Marble Contract was a code name for the oil pipeline deal his company had fought to win for 2 years. It had made him richer. It had made some people angry. But he had kept business and home in separate boxes. He believed the lid was tight. "Open the kitchen door." The masked man hissed when the audio of the kitchen mic picked up. His voice thinned through the door. He knocked twice again, the same rhythm. "Quick, quick. We don't have time." Kalu clicked the backyard camera. A black SUV idled with its lights off. Another man stood by the gate, looking up and down the empty lane. The driver wore a red cap. The gate camera showed his feet shifting restless, like he was dancing to a drum he could not silence. Kalu hit police. "Emergency," the operator said. "This is Mr. Adeyemi," he said. "Banana Island, Crescent 12. Home invasion in progress. There are children inside. 3 triplets. The maid says there are kidnappers at the service entrance. Send units now." "Stay on the line," the operator said. "Officers are on their way. Stay on the line." Kalu didn't tell the operator he was 10 minutes away by car. He didn't tell her that he could see everything except the future. He toggled back to the nursery. Nia crouched and whispered to the sleeping boys. She shook Zuri gently. The little girl blinked and reached up, confused. Nia put a finger to her lips and pointed to the ceiling. Zuri looked up, saw the small black, and nodded like a secret agent. It hit Kalu then. Nia had been teaching them something without him noticing. "Nia," he said, "do not open that door." She turned her head like she was listening for something inside his voice. "I will stall," she whispered. "I will make them believe the keys are in the upstairs drawer. I will buy 5 minutes." "Wait for police?" he said. The kitchen camera shook. The masked man put his shoulder to the door. The wood groaned. The second man at the back gate spoke into his phone, his mouth hard. A third shape moved at the far edge of the yard, a shadow near the generator house. Kalu grabbed his car keys. He didn't remember standing. He didn't remember moving from chair to door. He only remembered the cold air of the elevator and the city opening under him like a story he had read before. In the car, Kalu kept the phone on the passenger seat. The call's still open, the cameras live. He drove without music. Traffic lights blinked yellow on the empty road. When he started the engine, a second notification flashed on the screen. Study safe open upstairs. Kalu swore. The safe in the study had a touchpad. Only 2 people knew the code. Kalu and Nia. He had shown Nia last year, after the triplets were born, in case of fire. He had not imagined tonight. Back to the study camera. The painting, his late wife's favorite, had been slid aside. The safe stood open, but the shelves inside were not empty. Kalu squinted. The camera froze for a half-second, caught up, then showed 3 small backpacks on the carpet, the ones with star patches that matched the triplets' beds. Nia had tucked things inside. She zipped them halfway, like a mother packing for school at dawn. "What did you take?" Kalu asked, voice tight. "Passports," she said. "Doctor cards, allergy pens, a little cash, and the trackers. If they take them, we will follow." Blue light flashed in the nursery window, sudden, sharp. Sirens rose, far then closed. The masked man took 1 step back from the kitchen door, then another. The SUV engine coughed, then died. The driver in the red cap ran. The shadow by the generator house melted into the wall. Kalu turned at the next light and took the bridge. The city air smelled like wet iron and salt. He thought of the triplets' first word, mama, and how his wife had not lived to hear it. He thought of the day he decided money would never surprise him again. Money still found a way. The kitchen door buckled once. Twice. It held. "Nia," Kalu said, "lock the pantry door. Take the children to the guest bathroom. Stay there. Officers are coming through the front. I've called the estate gate. No one gets in or out." Nia nodded and moved fast. The nursery showed her lifting Zion in one arm, Zane in the other, whispering into their curls. Zuri ran at her side in tiny slippers. The camera followed as they slipped through the hallway and into the guest bathroom, an interior room with no window. The bathroom light showed clean white tiles and a small pink stool. Nia set the boys down, knelt eye level with all 3, and put her hands on their cheeks. "Listen," she said. "Look at me. When the police knock, you say your names and you say your father's name. You say Nia stayed with you. You say that loud." The front door burst open. Security lights flared in the foyer. Flashlight beams cut through the living room and landed on the kitchen. Shouts filled the speaker. "Police! Hands! Hands!" The sound made the triplets jump. Zuri grabbed Nia's sleeve. Nia squeezed her hand. Kalu swung into the crescent, tires whispering on the wet pavement. Blue and red strobes painted his gate. 2 police trucks idled in the street, engines thrumming. He pulled up hard, stepped out, and the night hit him. The sharp smell of diesel, the sour bite of fear. An officer met him at the gate. "Mr. Adeyemi?" the officer said. "Yes," Kalu said. "My children. Inside. The maid is with them. The men are at the back." "We have units at the rear," the officer said. "We've secured the kitchen. Come." They moved through the front door together. The foyer looked like a bright stage. Shoes thrown aside from the rush. The aquarium bubbled, the fish moving in slow circles like they had nowhere else to be. 2 officers swept the kitchen. The door was splintered but still in its frame. The yard beyond was empty now except for wet footprints that faded toward the wall. "Bathroom," Kalu said, moving ahead. He stopped himself from running. The guest bathroom door opened from inside. Nia stood there with her palms up, shoulders low, eyes wet but steady. Behind her, the triplets squinted against the hall light. Zane clutched the pink stool like a shield. They came, Nia said. They almost came in. Listen. From the kitchen, a radio crackled. Back gate secure. No suspects at rear. We found the SUV. It's clean. Plate is false. Sir, another officer called from the study. You need to see this. Kalu glanced at his children, 3 small faces, then followed the call. He stepped into the study. The painting was still skewed. The safe gaped open. On the carpet lay the 3 backpacks Nia had packed. An officer knelt beside them, hands gloved, and unzipped the first bag. He pulled out a small passport, another passport, a folded paper, a plastic card. Sir, the officer said, holding up the folded paper, is this your signature? Kalu took the paper. The world narrowed to the page. It was a document stamped in blue, dated that afternoon, bearing his company letterhead and his name at the bottom. The title read, Authorization for Temporary Custody Transfer. Underneath, in plain words, it said the children were to be released at 2 a.m. to a named guardian for safe relocation due to credible threats. The guardian's name was Nia Okonkwo. The signature at the bottom matched his handwriting exactly. Kalu's mouth went dry. He shook his head once. I didn't sign this, he said. A voice rose from the hallway, a young officer calling, Sir, we found something else. Everyone turned as the officer appeared with a small black device pinched between his fingers. It was an identical GPS tracker to the ones under the pillows, but this one had a red light blinking fast. It was taped under your office desk upstairs, the officer said. Still warm. Nia's face changed. She looked at Kalu, not the police, her eyes wide with something like relief and terror combined. Sir, she whispered, he already knows you called. The house speakers crackled. Every camera feed on Kalu's phone went black at once. Then a single frame returned, the nursery, empty now, lights off, and a voice poured into the room, smooth and close, as if the speaker stood in Kalu's shadow. Good evening, Kalu, the voice said. Thank you for gathering everyone in one place. The audio popped, and the triplets screamed in the hall as the front door swung shut on its own and the locks clicked, one by one, from inside. The locks clicked in a sequence like knuckles rapping a table. 1, 2, 3. Every officer's hand went instinctively to a holster, but no one drew. The triplets pressed together behind Nia, their small fingers knotting into her uniform. Kalu's phone screen stayed black, except for a small white word at the bottom. Connected. Who are you? Kalu asked, facing the nearest speaker grill, like it had a face. What do you want? What I wanted, the voice said unhurried, was to never have to show you how weak your fortress is. But here we are. Consider this a courtesy call. The supervising officer, a compact man with a deep cleft chin, touched his radio. Control, we've got internal lock engaged. Electronic. Power is steady. Possible remote override. Copy, crackled the reply. Estate, gate confirms power normal. Tech unit en route. Nia hadn't moved. She kept her body between the children and the hallway. Sir, she said to Kalu, very calm, call the number we discussed. Not on the house Wi-Fi. Use mobile data only. Kalu's eyes flickered. He switched his phone to cellular and opened a contact saved as Alpha. A woman answered on the second ring. Mr. Adeyemi, she said brisk, American accent softened by years in Ghana. Alpha Control. My house is in lockdown, he said. Intruder voice on system. Police on site. We need a dark reconnect. On it, she replied. We'll bounce through your offshore node. Watch your uplink in 30 seconds. Kalu closed his eyes for half a breath. Hearing again the morning, he decided to build Alpha. It had been a year ago, after the second threat letter. Thin paper, no fingerprint detectable. The letter said, You mix oil with water and expect the river to thank you. He had stared at the sentence, at the odd poetry of it, and seen the face of an engineer he'd fired, and the eyes of a contractor he'd embarrassed in a boardroom, and a dozen other men who felt they deserved a piece of marble. That afternoon, he had hired a private team, legal, cybersecurity, off-duty protection, through a quiet referral from an investor in Atlanta who had once been a cop in DeKalb County. "Don't talk about safety," the investor had said. "Buy it." Nia had arrived the same week, small and steady, with references that sounded like gratitude. In her interview, she'd said, "Children listen to patterns more than words." Kalu had liked that. He had watched her kneel to speak "I love" with the triplets, and thought of his late wife, Ao, who had always done the same. The present snapped back as Alpha's voice returned in Kalu's ear. "We see your cameras. Your home system has been rerouted through a phantom account at your ISP. That access requires physical authentication from inside your home, likely a dongle paired to your main router. We'll cut the phantom, but the locks are on a separate loop, different animal. Can you trace the voice?" Kalu asked, eyes on the speaker grill. "Already trying," Alpha said. "He's bouncing off a local node. Lagos mainland. We'll tighten the net." The supervising officer gestured to his team. "We don't assume this is a bluff," he said. "We take the family to a safe room until tech cuts the lock." "The safe room won't hold," the voice said, almost amused. "It vents into the main duct. You didn't think to isolate air, Kalu. The engineer who took your money wrote you a fairy tale." Nia's head tilted, registering more than the words. "He knows the drawings," she murmured. Kalu felt shame and anger rise together. He had put maps in too many hands, and assumed fear would keep mouths closed. "Tell me what you want," Kalu repeated. "Leverage," the voice said. "You have a document in your hand that says the children may leave with their guardian. That document will pass a quick scan. The judge is real. The signatures are clean. We will leave with the children in 3 minutes, escorted by your officers. You will not follow for 30 minutes. You will receive a call with the rest." "No," the supervising officer snapped. "No child leave this house without a parent or court order verified by command." The voice chuckled, a low sound. "Then watch your command verify." The supervising officer's radio crackled again, louder this time. "Command here. The document sent by Mr. Adeyemi shows live in the court system. Stamped today. Ordinarily, we'd wait for verification. Given a credible threat, this qualifies for emergency transfer with police escort until dawn." Every head turned to Kalu. "I didn't issue that," he said, holding up the paper. His own name underlined his failure. "It's a forgery." "Sir," the officer said, softer, "it's in the system." "How?" Kalu asked, more to himself than anyone. Then the answer rose, sickening. A clerk, a stamp, a favor owed to someone promising cash and protection. Marble money had turned hands Kalu never saw. Nia spoke, eyes on the children. "Sir, with respect, paper or no paper, you know I would not take them." "I know," Kalu said. He did know. He had watched for the last 6 months run storm drills with the triplets. Lights off, shoes on, find a pink stool, whisper your name and your father's name. He had asked why the stool. "Because they remember where they sit." She had answered. Alpha's voice pushed into his ear again. "We've identified the phantom account owner. It's linked to a firm that used a bid on Marble's rig security, Atlas Sentinel. The director of operations is your former head of site logistics. Name, Deo Aramu." Kalu's throat tightened. Deo. He had fired Deo 18 months ago for moving fuel without invoices. Deo had cried in the office, then gone hard and cold. "You don't know the river," Deo had said, one palm flat on Kalu's desk, the other fisted at his side. "You think the water belongs to men with pens." Kalu opened his eyes. "He wants to walk out the front with my children. He thinks the courts will make us hesitate." The supervising officer's jaw worked. "We are not walking children out of a lockdown," he said, more to convince himself than anyone. 2 minutes, the voice said. The hallway light flickered once. The aquarium filter went silent and then hummed again. Somewhere deep in the house, a relay clicked. Kalu knelt to the triplets. "Look at me," he said. "Zane, Zion, Zuri." Their big brown eyes fixed on him. He lowered his voice. "Do you remember Mama's song?" Zuri nodded, curls shaking. She hummed a tune with only 2 notes. The boys joined, a tiny choir that sounded like a power line singing. Nia smiled without showing teeth. Good, Kalu said. You sing that if anything feels wrong. Loud. Don't stop. He stood and faced the supervising officer. We move them to the pantry, lock interior, and block the vent. We make enough noise to suggest confusion at the front, while Alpha kills a phantom. The pantry vent is small, Nia added. It can be sealed with a baking tray and duct tape. Bottom shelf left. The officer scanned both of them, then nodded. Okay, but no one opens any exterior door. They moved. It felt like a dance practice in a quiet room, now performed under bright lights. An officer scooped Zane. Another lifted Zion. Zuri clung to Nia's hip. Kalu grabbed the tape. In the pantry, they wedged the tray over the vent. The metallic ring of it swallowed by the thick thud of duct tape. The supervising officer clicked his radio. Control, we're moving the principal to interior pantry. Hold perimeter. Text status. 30 seconds, came a reply. We have a local tech at your gate. The house speakers buzzed. The voice sighed. Time is a river, he said. You can swim or you can be taken. Alpha's whisper was urgent now. Mr. Adeyemi, when the phantom dies, he will try a last push. It may spike your locks or kill your lights. Keep everyone low. Do not. The lights cut. For half a second, darkness owned the room. Then tactical flashlights bloomed, painting walls and hard cones. Kalu reached the children by feel, caught Zion's small foot with his calf, and planted himself like a post. A new sound rose, faint high, like a kettle about to sing. Nia stiffened. That's upstairs, she said. The nursery. Hold. The officer barked, palm raised. No one breaks position. We. A hard crack tore through the silence. Glass? Wood? It took Kalu's brain a heartbeat to translate. Not a gunshot. The nursery window, shattering outward. Rear team report. The supervising officer shouted into his radio. Rear team. Static answered. Then a voice, distant, strained. We've got movement on the north wall. 1, no. 2 figures. Rope. There. Sir. They're not going over. They're coming down. Kalu's mind lit a map. Nursery on the 2nd floor. North wall facing the inner courtyard. To come down meant someone was already above, on the roof. The voice had walked him into a maze, and then changed the ceiling. Alpha's voice pressed hard in his ear. Phantom is dead. We have your locks back in 3, 2, 1. The front door chirped and unlocked. The aquarium filter sang again. The overheads blinked to life in full white. Go! The supervising officer shouted. 2 officers sprinted for stairs. Another pair peeled toward the courtyard. Kalu started after them. Sir, Nia said sharply. He turned. Her hand hovered over the children's heads. Her face was pale. Look. On the pantry floor, near the toe of Kalu's shoe, lay a small square of black plastic with a blinking red light. The same tiny tracker Nia had slipped under the pillows. It hadn't been there a moment ago. Zuri stared at it, and then at Kalu, her lips forming a small, "Oh." I didn't bring that in, Nia whispered, voice thin. The supervising officer spun back into the pantry, drawn by Nia's tone. What is it? Kalu crouched, heart thudding. The tracker's red light wasn't steady. It blinked in a pattern. 2 short flashes, 1 long. Pause. 2 short flashes, 1 long. Nia swallowed. Sir, that's the same rhythm the man knocked on the service door. They all looked at one another. Spring caught mid-compress. The house speakers crackled one last time. The voice came soft, almost kind. Do you see now? He said. You hid them. You packed them. You gathered them in the one place I told you to. As if answering him, a shadow slid under the pantry door, black at the edge, like someone covering the threshold. The doorknob turned once, calm and slow, and from the other side a child's voice, not one Kalu's, whispered through the wood, Zuri, it's Mama. Open. The triplets froze, eyes wide, and Zuri's hand lifted toward the knob without thinking. If you're gripped by what just happened, don't miss the next chapter. Before you go, tap subscribe so you'll be the first to know when next part drops, and /share to help others find the story. Also, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments and tell us. If you were in Kalu's shoes, hearing that voice and seeing that tracker, what would you do next? The moment Zuri's small hand touched the doorknob, the supervising officer lunged and yanked her back. "Don't open it," he barked, his flashlight beam cutting across the pantry wall. The voice on the other side, soft, maternal, impossibly familiar, continued to whisper, "Zuri, baby, it's Mama. You've been so brave. Open for me." Kalu's blood ran cold. His wife, Ao, had been dead for 4 years. Zane whimpered. Zion pressed his face into Nia's shoulder. "Daddy," Zane whispered, "Mama's back." Kalu dropped to one knee, gripping Zuri's trembling shoulders. "No, sweetheart, that's not Mama," he said quietly. "It's someone pretending. You hear me? Pretending." But the voice grew clearer, more insistent. "Zuri, remember our song? Hum. It was the same lullaby Kalu had just asked him to hum. The 2 notes, the same rhythm. The supervising officer gestured sharply. 2 officers flanked the door, guns raised low. One mouthed infrared, the other shook his head. The metal walls distorted the sensors. Then 3 slow knocks, 2 short, 1 long. The same pattern. "Sir," Nia whispered. "That's them. They're at the vent side, too." Kalu turned. The baking tray, sealing the vent, trembled slightly. A dull clink echoed, like metal shifting against metal. He stepped between the children and the vent, heart pounding. "Alpha," he said into his earpiece, "we've got multiple breach points." Voice mimicry on audio. "How is that possible?" Alpha's operator answered fast. "Could be synthetic feed. If they got into your home network before the Phantom dropped, they could have cloned archived audio of your wife's voice. We're still tracking the uplink. Whoever's controlling this isn't just after ransom, Mr. Adeyemi. They're proving access." Kalu clenched his jaw. "Access to what?" "Your data vaults," Alpha said. "Your company's negotiation records for Marble. You stored the contracts on the same home server. If they compromise it, they can blackmail every investor you have." The supervising officer hissed, "We move now." He signaled toward the rear hall. "Team 2, breach the corridor from the opposite side." Flash and clear. One officer reached for the handle. The pantry lights flickered again, and this time they didn't come back. Darkness. A child's soft cry. The faint click-click of the doorknob turning again. Then a shriek of tearing metal. The vent cover ripped clean off. "Down!" the officer shouted. The door burst inward. The flashbang exploded in the hallway, washing the pantry in white light. Kalu's ears rang. In the glare, he saw a figure drop from the ceiling vent. Slim, dressed in black tactical gear, face covered. The intruder rolled, grabbed Zuri, and moved with frightening speed toward the hall. "Zuri!" Kalu roared. Nia dove forward, catching the intruder's leg mid-stride. The 2 crashed to the floor, fighting for grip. Zuri screamed, kicking. Nia clawed at the mask and tore halfway down, revealing a man's jawline, streaked with sweat and stubble. "Day!" Kalu started. The man twisted, elbowed Nia hard in the ribs, and slammed a smoke canister onto the ground. White fog filled the pantry, choking the light. Through the chaos, Kalu saw Zuri's small form being dragged toward the hall door. The supervising officer fired. A single deafening crack. The intruder staggered, jerked, but didn't fall. He disappeared into the smoke with the girl in his arms. Nia coughed, crawling toward the door. "He's hit. He won't get far. Stay with the boys." Kalu barked, sprinting after them. He burst through the haze into the corridor, heart hammering. Red emergency lights blinked along the floorboards, guiding the escape route the intruder had somehow triggered. Ahead, the figure limped but still ran fast, Zuri's cries echoing down the hall. "Stop!" Kalu shouted. He reached for a vase on a side table and hurled it. It shattered against the wall, missing by inches. The man turned for a split second. Kalu saw his face fully this time, Deo Aramu. Deo. Kalu's voice broke between rage and disbelief. You work for me. Deo's grin was twisted, almost sorrowful. You should have left the river alone, he said, then kicked open the side door leading to the garage. Police sirens wailed outside again, reinforcements. 2 officers stormed through the front, shouting commands. In the garage, the air was thick with exhaust fumes. A black SUV sat idling with the back door open. Kalu saw a second masked man at the wheel, yelling for Deo to hurry. Kalu rushed forward, grabbing at Zuri's arm. Deo swung his elbow backward, catching Kalu in the jaw. Pain shot up his face, but Kalu didn't let go. Let her go, he bellowed. Zuri's tiny hand slipped from Deo's grasp just as the officer's bullet shattered the SUV's rear window. Deo dove into the car. It sped backward, crashing to the half-open garage gate. Sparks flying. Kalu fell to his knees, holding Zuri close. The officers surrounded them, guns raised at the fleeing vehicle. The SUV fishtailed into the street and exploded in a burst of orange fire before it reached the corner. The blast shook the entire house. Nia screamed from inside, clutching the 2 boys. Kalu shielded Zuri with his body as glass rained down. The fire reflected in the mirrored windows, turning the entire estate into a sea of light. When the flames finally calmed, a twisted black shell of the SUV lay smoking in the street. The supervising officer approached cautiously. Sir, no movement. No survivors visible. But Kalu didn't move. His daughter clung to his neck, sobbing quietly. Nia ran out barefoot, carrying Zane and Zion. Sir, are they safe? They're safe, Kalu said hoarsely. They're safe now. But even as he said it, Alpha's voice came to the earpiece again, urgent and metallic. Mr. Adeyemi, don't celebrate yet. We just intercepted a backup transmission. Deo wasn't alone. There's another signal. Same signature. Still broadcasting from inside your house. Kalu's eyes widened. Inside. Confirmed. Alpha said, the secondary device just pinged from your late wife's study, the one you sealed after she passed. Kalu turned slowly toward the mansion, where the windows still shimmered from the fire's reflection. The study upstairs was dark, untouched for years, door locked since the day Ao died. Nia followed his gaze, voice trembling. Sir, you told me no one ever goes in there. I didn't, Kalu said quietly, but someone has. A single light flickered on upstairs, dim, yellow, and steady, inside the locked study. Zuri lifted her head against his chest. Daddy, she whispered, Mama's light is on. The supervising officer turned. Radio pressed his mouth. Units, sweep the second floor immediately. The study is live. As the men moved inside, Alpha's final words came through Kalu's earpiece, grim and certain. Sir, whoever's in that room, they're not after your money anymore. They're after your wife's secret files. And if she did what I think she did, this isn't just a kidnapping attempt. Kalu's heartbeat thundered in his ears. Then what is it? Alpha paused, then said, It's revenge for what happened to Ao. Before we continue to the next chapter, what do you think Ao might have hidden in that lock study? Was it a secret about her death, or something she knew about Marble Contract? Drop your theories below. And don't forget to subscribe and like this story so you won't miss what's uncovered in the next chapter. The faint yellow light from the locked study painted the marble staircase in a trembling glow. Smoke from the explosion outside drifted through the broken windows, carrying the burnt scent of rubber and something metallic, like blood and fear. Second floor secure, one of the officers shouted. No visual yet, sir, but the light is still on. Kalu stood at the base of the stairs, holding Zuri tight. The little girl's small arms were locked around his neck. Nia stood behind him with the twins, her uniform streaked with soot. Mr. Adeyemi, Alpha's voice came through his earpiece again. We're tracing that signal. Whoever's in that study, whatever they're doing, they're transmitting data through a satellite uplink. That means they're after something digital. Files. Kalu's stomach turned. The only files in that room are Ao's. Exactly, Alpha said. And if we're right, your wife's private journals and recordings might be the last piece of the marble puzzle. If they get out your company, your assets, your family name, it's all gone. Kalu stared up at the landing. The house that had once been full of laughter now echoed with the weight of secrets. "Keep the children here," he told Nia. "Don't move unless I say so." "Sir, please," she whispered. "You shouldn't go alone." But Kalu was already moving up the stairs, 2 officers flanking him. His shadow stretched long and bent under the flickering lights. The hallway upstairs felt too quiet. The air conditioning had stopped, replaced by a slow mechanical hum coming from behind the study door. The brass handle glowed, faintly warm to the touch. One officer whispered, "Sir, step back. We breach on 3. Kalu nodded. 3, 2, 1. The door burst open. Inside, the air was thick with dust and memory. Ao's perfume, lavender and something faintly citrus, still lingered. Her painting hung crooked over the desk, the one she'd started before the accident but never finished. And there, in front of her old laptop, sat a figure, a woman. Her back was straight, her hair hidden under a dark scarf. Her hands moved quickly across the keyboard, typing with practiced precision. "Hands where I can see them," the officer barked. The woman didn't turn. She spoke softly, her voice amplified by the laptop speakers. "Don't shoot. You'll hit the drive." Kalu froze. That voice. He had heard it for years on old recordings, bedtime stories Ao used to read to the triplets when they were newborns. But this one was different. Deeper, older, roughened by life. The woman turned slowly. Kalu staggered back a step, air catching in his throat. "Ao." The woman smiled faintly. Not exactly. It was her twin sister, Adana. Kalu had seen her only once, at Ao's funeral. She had vanished right after, refusing every call, every message. "Adana?" His voice cracked. What are you doing here?" Her eyes were calm, cold. "Finishing what your wife started." The officers closed in, but Adana lifted a small device from her lap, a black flash drive attached to a glowing modem. "Take another step, and this sends everything to every major outlet in Nigeria. From there, it's automatic. Everything." Kalu asked. "Every document. Every recording your wife hid about marble contract," she said, still typing. "Ao didn't die in an accident, Kalu." She was silenced. "And you knew." "I didn't," he shouted. "I didn't know they would." "She warned you." Adana cut in sharply. "She told you your partners were laundering bribes through the pipeline deal. She told you that security contractor, Deo, was just a pawn for someone higher. But you called her paranoid. You left her to face them alone." Kalu's chest tightened. "That's not true. I tried to protect her. By locking her files away." Adana's tone cracked like a whip. "By hiding her research instead of exposing it. She died with that secret, and you built your fortune on ashes." Kalu took a trembling step forward. "What do you want from me?" Adana's fingers paused on the keyboard. "Justice," she said softly, "and truth." The supervising officer motioned subtly toward Kalu. "Stall her." Kalu swallowed hard. "If it's truth you want, I'll give it. But my children, what happened tonight? This isn't justice. It's revenge." Adana's jaw tightened. "Maybe both." "People almost died," he pressed. "Deo is dead because of this." She looked at him, eyes flashing. Deo knew the risks. He wasn't supposed to take the girl. The explosion wasn't part of my plan. Then whose was it? Adana hesitated. The man behind Marble's offshore accounts. The same man who paid to kill Ao. Alpha's voice cut through Kalu's earpiece. "Mr. Adeyemi, we just traced her transmission node. It's routed through your company headquarters. Someone inside is helping her." Kalu's blood froze. "Inside? Who?" Before Alpha could answer, Adana's modem beeped twice. She looked down at the screen and whispered, "No, he's here." The study lights dimmed, replaced by a red glow from the monitor. A new voice came to the laptop speakers. Deep, smooth, menacing. "Well done, Adana," the man said. "But I can't let you release those files." The feed flickered, showing a man's silhouette in a high-rise office. Even through static, Kalu recognized a gold ring on his finger. Jerome, his American partner. The man Ao had once begged him not to trust. Jerome? Kalu whispered. You. Jerome's voice was calm. You were a useful front, Kalu, but your wife was inconvenient. So is her sister. Adana stepped back, pulling the flash drive from the port. You can't stop me now. Jerome chuckled. I don't have to. That drive is geotagged. My men will be there in 90 seconds. The feed cut to black. Downstairs, the alarms blared again. Police shouted orders. Adana pocketed the drive and looked at Kalu. If you want to save your children, get them out. He'll come for them next. Ao's kids are the only leverage left. Kalu looked into her eyes, torn between fury and fear. Come with me, he said. We'll face this together. Adana shook her head. Go. I'll hold them off. Ao would have done the same. Gunfire erupted downstairs, sharp bursts echoing through the mansion. Nia's scream carried up from below. Sir, they're in the house. Kalu turned toward the door, shouting to the officers, Protect her! Then he sprinted down the staircase, adrenaline driving every step. Through the smoke-filled living room, black-clad men were breaking through the shattered windows, firing warning shots. Kalu dove toward Nia, pulling her and the triplets behind a marble column. Are you hurt? No, sir, she gasped. But they're everywhere. One of the intruders shouted, Where's the drive? Kalu realized it wasn't him they wanted. It was Adana upstairs. He turned to Nia. Take the children through the servant tunnel. Go to the neighbor's compound. Don't stop for anyone. But, sir, go. As Nia grabbed the children and disappeared through the side corridor, Kalu turned toward the stairs just as another explosion shook the second floor. Fire burst from the study windows, raining embers down into the hallway. Adana, he yelled. The flames roared in answer. An officer grabbed his arm, pulling him back. Sir, it's too late. We have to go. Kalu's knees buckled as he stared up at the burning study, the room that held his wife's secrets, his sins, and now, maybe, her sister's sacrifice. The fire alarm shrieked over the chaos. Red lights strobed across the hall, and in the midst of it, his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You can't bury the truth, Kalu. She gave it to me before she died. Attached was a single video file. The sender ID read, aodadeyemi@gmail.com. Kalu's hand shook as he tapped play. The first frame appeared, his wife's face, smiling gently at the camera. Hello, Kalu, Ao's recorded voice said. If you're watching this, it means they finally came for you too. Before the next chapter drops, I want to hear from you. What do you think Ao recorded in that message? Was it proof of betrayal or a plan to expose Jerome and everyone behind Marble? Comment your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this story if you're following the mystery. The mansion burned behind him, a furious orange glow that stained the Lego sky. Sirens wailed from every direction, but Kalu didn't hear them. All he could hear was his wife's voice. If you're watching this, it means they finally came for you too. The video on his phone flickered again, the faint light from the screen glinting off the tears on his face. Ao's voice was steady, calm, the same voice that used to soothe the triplets to sleep. You thought you could protect me by hiding the truth. But the truth doesn't hide, Kalu. It waits. He felt his knees weaken. Ao, he whispered, his voice trembling. The screen glitched for a moment before stabilizing again. If you're watching this, the files are gone from the study. They're not where you think. I couldn't let them destroy everything we built, so I moved them to the only place they would never look, the one place you swore to protect no matter what. Ao leaned closer to the camera, her expression soft but urgent. There with the children, Kalu, hidden in their things. Inside the pink elephant blanket I sewed for Zuri's 4th birthday are 3 tiny memory chips. Each one carries part of the truth about Marble. The bribes, the names, the payments, everything. If you love them, protect them. If you love me, expose them. The video ended. For a long second, Kalu stood frozen, the phone shaking in his grip. His mind reeled. He finally understood why Jerome's men had come for his children. They weren't after ransom. They were after the truth. He turned sharply, racing down the corridor toward the hidden servant tunnel. "Nia!" he shouted. "Nia, where are the kids?" No response. Only the echo of his own voice bouncing back. He burst into the tunnel entrance, a narrow concrete passage dimly lit by emergency bulbs. At the far end, he spotted Nia huddled with the triplets. Zane and Zion were crying quietly. Zuri sat clutching her blanket, shaking. "Nia!" She looked up, relief flashing across her face. "Sir, thank God." Before she could finish, gunfire tore through the tunnel. Sparks flared against the walls. Two men in black tactical gear appeared behind them, rifles raised. "Run!" Nia screamed. Kalu dove forward, dragging Nia and the children behind an overturned crate. Bullets shattered the emergency bulbs, plunging the tunnel into half-darkness. "Alpha!" Kalu shouted into his earpiece. "Talk to me." "Sir," Alpha's voice came rapid fire. "We're tracking your location. The men in the tunnel are Atlas Sentinel contractors, Jerome's hired killers. Their orders are to retrieve the data at all costs. You must get out. They're between us and the exit." Kalu yelled back, "Then make another exit." Alpha replied, "The maintenance wall beside you is hollow. 2 meters to your right. Kick it through." Kalu shifted, braced his shoulder, and slammed into the wall. Once, twice. On the third hit, the plaster cracked open, revealing a crawlspace behind it. He shoved Nia and the kids through first. "Go!" Nia crawled in with the children, clutching Zuri's pink elephant blanket. Kalu followed last, crawling through the narrow shaft as bullets clanged against the metal frame behind them. They emerged into the open air behind his estate, where rain poured in sheets. The city skyline shimmered beyond the mist, and in the distance, the faint sound of motor engines echoed toward the docks. Kalu's phone buzzed. "Alpha again. Jerome is leaving for the mainland," she said. "Private yacht. Ikoyi port. He's expecting a courier with the files. If you're going to stop him, this is your only window." Kalu looked at the children, soaked, trembling, their faces streaked with tears. "Nia, take them somewhere safe," he said. "What about you?" "I have to finish this," he said. "For Ao." Nia's eyes widened. "Sir, that's suicide." He placed his hand on her shoulder. "If I don't stop him, my children will never be safe. You said something earlier. Nia, that children listen to patterns, not words. Remember that." She nodded weakly. "Then listen to mine," he said. "Take them and run." And then he was gone, swallowed by the rain and the dark. The Ikoyi docks were quiet, slick with rain and oil. Kalu's SUV screeched to a halt near the pier. He could see Jerome's yacht idling under floodlights, its name marble star glinting across the hull. Men in black suits moved cargo aboard, ignoring the downpour. Jerome stood near the gangway, wearing his trademark gray suit under a black raincoat. His umbrella tilted just enough to hide his face. "Jerome!" Kalu shouted over the wind. Jerome turned, smiling that slow, poisonous smile. "You made it, my friend." "You destroyed my family," Kalu said, stepping forward. "You killed Ao." Jerome's laughter was low, almost pitying. "No, Kalu, you killed Ao with your silence. You knew about the payoffs, the bribes, the missing oil barrels. She begged you to expose it, but you were too afraid of losing everything. So she acted alone." Kalu's voice shook. "You had her car sabotaged." Jerome shrugged. "She was becoming a liability. I did what was necessary. Business is never personal." Kalu's jaw clenched. "It's personal now." Jerome took a step closer, still smiling. "You don't understand, do you? This isn't just about money. It's about control. Those files your wife made, they could burn governments. And now they're finally back where they belong." He reached into his coat and pulled out something small and pink, the elephant pattern fabric, soaked and torn. Kalu froze. "Where did you get that?" Jerome twirled the patch between his fingers. "My men found it in the tunnel. Ingenious little hiding place, but not ingenious enough." Before Kalu could react, the sound of footsteps echoed behind him. Jerome's guard stepped out of the shadows, guns raised. "Kill him," Jerome said calmly. A single gunshot split the air. Jerome's grin faltered. His umbrella fell. He staggered forward, a dark stain spreading across his chest. Behind him stood Nia, drenched in rain, pistol steady in her hands. He said, "Don't move," she said coldly. Jerome turned, eyes wide with disbelief. You were supposed to run." Nia fired again. He collapsed to his knees, choking on the rain. Kalu stepped forward and caught the torn patch before it hit the ground. Inside, the damp seam glinted a silver sliver, the memory chip Ao had spoken of. Jerome's voice rasped, weak and broken. "You can't stop it now. Others will come." Kalu looked down at him. "Then I'll be ready." Jerome fell still. The rain washed over him, carrying his blood into the sea. By dawn, the fire at the mansion had been contained. The triplets were safe. Nia sat beside them on the hospital bed, a quiet protector. Kalu stood at the window, exhausted but resolute, watching the first pale light break over Lagos. Alpha's team arrived, briefcases and laptops in hand. The lead agent placed a small case on the table. "Sir, we recovered all 3 chips from the children's belongings. Your wife was meticulous. She encrypted them across separate keys. With your permission, we can decrypt and release the data to international investigators." Kalu looked at the case for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Do it." The agent connected the chips, keys syncing in sequence. The screen filled with folders, names, accounts, wire transfers, a trail of corruption stretching from Nigeria to Washington. Alpha looked up. "You understand what this means, sir. Once we publish this, there's no going back." Kalu's eyes hardened. "Good." He turned to the window, where the morning sun glowed faintly through the fog. "Ao died for the truth," he said quietly. "Now the world will finally hear it." He took out the pink elephant blanket, folded neatly on the chair beside him, and pressed it to his chest. "For her," he whispered. And for the first time in 4 years, Kalu Adeyemi felt the weight of guilt begin to lift, replaced by something colder, stronger, and purer. Justice. Before the next chapter begins, tell us, do you think Kalu's decision to expose everything will truly bring justice or unleash even darker secrets? Comment your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this story so more people can follow the truth behind Billionaire installs cameras to watch his kids. By morning, the rain had thinned to mist, and the city moved like nothing extraordinary had happened in the night. But inside the private ward at St. Gregory, extraordinary clung to every breath. Zuri slept propped against Nia's shoulder, the pink elephant blanket tucked under her chin. Zayn and Zion were curled together on the other side of the bed, their fingers looped like hooks. Monitors hummed. A nurse whispered. Security officers stood at the door, 2 inside and 2 in the corridor. Kalu watched the children through glass and tried to quiet the drum in his chest. He had not slept. He had signed 10 statements, given 4 briefings, and refused the same question from 3 different officials. "Are you sure you want this public?" He was. But certainty had a cost, and the bill was already on the tray. Alpha's lead operative, a compact woman with calm eyes who introduced herself only as Tara, set a hardened laptop on the windowsill. "All 3 chips decrypted," she said. "Your wife distributed the data across them using a split key. Each chip holds a third of the map. Together, they name account holders, payment paths, shell companies, and orders to intimidate. The journaling is meticulous. She documented everything. Mr. Adeyemi, it's enough to end careers and start trials." Kalu ran a hand over his face. "Then we send it." Tara nodded once. "The safe path is simultaneous. International outlets, anti-corruption units in Abuja and Accra, and 2 rights groups your wife trusted. We push at the same time. It will be impossible to pull down everywhere." "And retaliation?" he asked. Tara's eyes flicked to the room where the triplets slept. "We plan for it." A soft vibration buzzed in Kalu's pocket, an unknown number. He stepped into the quiet alcove by the vending machine and answered, "Yes." Static, then a woman's breath, shaky but controlled. "Kalu." He froze. "Adana?" "I'm alive," she said. Relief hit him so hard he had to press a palm to the wall. I got out through the laundry chute when the study blew, helping her officer, short, cleft in his chin. The supervising officer? Kalu said. He pulled you out? He opened the door to the back stairs, she said. Then he disappeared. I've been hiding since then. I can't stay long. They're sweeping. Listen to me. Jerome wasn't the end. He was a lock. The key is still turning. Whose hand? Kalu whispered. Her answer was swallowed by another voice in the line. Smooth and close. Male, educated. A voice used to being obeyed. It's good you two can speak, the stranger said pleasantly. Family should have closure. The line shifted. Adana gasped. Don't. Click. Kalu's mouth went dry. Who is this? You know me? The man said. You shook my hand at 2 fundraisers and 1 funeral. You thanked me for arranging your wife's transfer to a better hospital. I sent flowers when she died. I am the river you kept hearing about. Adeyemi, I am where marble is cleaned. Kalu's mind pulled up the face with the voice, a white captain in photographs, a quiet smile, an empire shipping. Chief Banco Alawu. He had financed politicians and ports. He had never lost a bid he wanted. He had been kind to Ao. He had also backed Atlas Sentinel the year Kalu fired Deo. What do you want? Kalu said. A trade, Chief Alawu replied. The original for your sister-in-law and your piece. Bring the chips to the old warehouse behind Dock 7, Apapa, South Wall. Noon. You will come alone. If I see a uniform, the woman breaks. If I sense a signal, the children break. Do we understand each other? Kalu's throat worked. You touch them and I will... You will come... Alawu said, mild as tea, because you are a good father. Noon. The line died. Tara had been listening on a parallel tap. She met Kalu's eyes. We can't hand him the originals, she said. But we can hand him something that looks like them. You'll clone, he asked. Already have, she said, lifting a second case from her bag. Same casing, same weight, same checksum if he scans lightly. The true packages are sharded to our cloud mirrors on time release. When we push, no hand can pull it back. And Adana? Kalu asked. Tara's face softened. We get her. We plan for both. He looked back at the glass, at the sleeping children and Nia's tired profile. I go alone, he said, but I don't go blind. Nia must have felt him watching. She glanced up and stepped out, closing the ward door gently behind her. Sir, he told her everything in 2 minutes, all the way down to the way Alawu breathed between sentences. Nia listened without blinking. Then we don't let him choose the ground, she said. He already did. She shook her head. Only if we walk there the way he expects. He thinks he owns your angles. Change the angle. Tara raised a brow, interested. Talk to me. Nia pointed to Kalu's breast pocket. You'll wear the pin camera I put there last night, not the one Alpha brought. It looks like a dull button. The feed goes to a phone no one's seen, mine. It's taped under the pink stool in the ward bathroom, with a prepaid SIM and a battery pack. If anyone sweeps your car or jacket with a standard scanner, they'll miss it. When you say Mama's song, it triggers an upload to a cloud I set up months ago. Tara stared at her. You planned that. I planned for storms, Nia said simply. Children listen to patterns. Men who hurt children make noise. We make our own pattern louder. Kalu's chest tightened with gratitude he didn't know how to carry. Come work for me, he blurted, the wrong sentence in the right moment. Not as staff, as head of family security. With authority. With pay. Nia's eyes flickered. Let's keep them alive first. They left the hospital through an underground exit. A decoy SUV rolling from the front drive with 2 officers and a blanket the shape of a child's body. Tara took the front passenger seat beside Kalu and briefed him as if they were discussing a board deal. We'll stage eyes 2 blocks out. No radios, line of sight signals, only. No drones. He'll be watching air. If he demands a search, let him pat you down. He wants your fear more than your phone. And the police? Kalu asked. Tara's jaw flexed. We keep them back. Someone in uniform helped Adana reach the stairs and then vanished. Could be kindness. Could be leash. Until I know, I keep badges in the second ring. Traffic thickened as they crossed to the mainland. By the time the clock touched 11:50, the port stacks rose around them. Gray blocks, slick ground, the smell of diesel and old fish. Dock 7 South Wall looked like a line from a prison drawing. They parked at a shuttered kiosk. Tara handed him the case with clones. When you see her, show him one chip, not all three. Make him prove life before you show anything else. Keep your feet still. Feet give your panic away. Kalu nodded. He took a breath, let it out slow, took another. He thought of A.O. laughing in their first rented apartment when the power died and they ate bread in the dark. He thought of Zuri's humming. He walked. The warehouse door was a high rectangle cut from a larger rectangle, as if the building had grown another door as a joke. Inside, the light fell in dusty columns. 5 men stood in the open space, rifles held with that loose arrogance trained men have. In the center, Chief Olu wore a pale bata, without a single raindrop on it. To his right, Adana knelt, hands tied in front, lips split, eyes steady. "Hello, Adeyemi," Olu said. "Family reunions are so moving." Kalu kept his feet still. "She stand before anything leaves my hand." "Of course." Olu gestured lazily. A man hauled Adana to her feet. Kalu lifted one clone chip from the case between thumb and forefinger. The room seemed to tilt toward it. "Proof of life," he said. Olu's eyes twinkled as if at a child who'd drawn a straight line. He nodded at Adana. "Speak." "I'm alive," she said. Her voice was roughened but unbroken. "Kalu, don't." "Enough?" Olu said pleasantly. Kalu held the chip up until his arm ached, then lowered it just enough to slip it into his jacket pocket. "Close to the pin camera. 1 for her. 2 when we're outside." "Outside?" Olu smiled. "You will break our hospitality rules." Kalu looked at Adana's face and saw A.O.'s shadow in the bone. A father sets his own rules. The old man's gaze cooled by a single degree. "Bring it here," he said. Slowly, Kalu stepped forward, counting his breaths, his feet careful on the concrete. When he reached speaking distance, he said the words Nia had asked him to sew into his mouth. "Mama's song." In the ward bathroom 2 islands away, a prepaid phone woke up underneath a pink plastic stool and sent a quiet river video into a cloud none of Olu's men would think to look for. The pin on Kalu's lapel saw faces and hands, and the way a finger twitched when a lie was forming. Olu held out his palm. "Gift." Kalu placed a chip in it. Steady. The old man turned it over twice, then passed it to a guard, who ran it under a scanner. The device blinked green. "Looks clean," the guard murmured. Olu's smile returned like a curtain rising after an intermission. "Good," he said. "Now the others." "First," Kalu said, "the children are safe? You said their peace was part of the trade." Olu's eyes never left Kalu's. Children are always safer when their fathers obey. Something prickled in Kalu's spine. He didn't move his feet. "You have men near the hospital." "Men," Olu repeated, as if tasting the word for salt. "We have citizens everywhere." A shadow moved near the warehouse door. The supervising police officer with the cleft chin slipped in along the wall, hand low, face set. For a heartbeat, relief washed Kalu back up after all. Then the officer didn't look at him. He looked at Olu and gave the smallest nod. Tara's suspicion was right. Kalu felt his mouth go dry. He shifted the case of clones in his hand to hide the tremor and said, as calmly as he could, "The other 2 are in the car. We walk out together." Olu's smile thinned. "No, you will bring them in, or I will ask my friends visiting St. Gregory to start singing to your little ones." Across the city, Nia's phone buzzed in her pocket as she returned from the ward bathroom, having checked the hidden feed. She glanced at the display and froze. A new device had appeared on the hospital's internal network, naming itself Maintenance Sensor 12. The MAC address was Atlas Sentinel. She looked up. 2 men she hadn't seen before stood at the end of the corridor, carrying tool bags and wearing fluorescent vests. One tapped his wrist twice. 2 short, 1 long. Patterns. Nia slid the phone into her palm, thumbed open the children's group chat she kept only for emergencies, and typed one sentence to Kalu that the pin camera would see when he looked down. They're here. Back in the warehouse, Kalu watched the supervising officer stroll to Oluwa's side. He heard, faint and thin, the echo of a tune from his memory, the two-note hum he'd taught the children. He didn't know if he was hearing it or remembering it. Oluwa's voice cut the air like a ribbon. "Time, Adeyemi." Kalu's phone buzzed once in his pocket with Nia's message. He lowered his eyes as if to think, letting the camera catch the screen. The words hit him like a blow. He looked up, and for the first time that morning, he let his fear show. "Don't touch them," he said, the word scraping. Oluwa tilted his head. "Then bring me the rest." Kalu gripped the case, so hard his knuckles whitened. Somewhere across the city, Zuri might be humming. Somewhere outside this door, the last good officer might be deciding which line to cross. He took a single step backward, never lifting his feet. "If you hurt them," he said quietly, "I press one button and the whole world sees your face." Oluwa's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Press it then," he said, and raised two fingers. At St. Gregory, the fluorescent-vested men dropped their tool bags in unison. Outside the warehouse, Tara tensed at the sightline signal from her lookout, one hand slicing twice through the air, one held flat. Inside, Kalu's children began to hum their two-note song, faint through the ward door, and in the gray light of the dock, with the chief's hand still lifted, Kalu had to choose between handing over the last pieces of his wife's truth or saving the three small voices calling him across the city. Kalu did not blink. Chief Oluwa's fingers hung in the air like a judge's gavel. The rifles around him tilted the fraction it takes to make a life smaller. From Kalu's pocket, his phone buzzed once. The single word from Nia burned on the screen. "They're here." The warehouse smelled of old sacks and diesel. Dust hung in soft ropes through the skylight. Adana stood, wrists bound, chin raised. The supervising officer with the cleft chin had taken his lazy place at Oluwa's right shoulder, one hand resting near his sidearm, as if he had always belonged there. Kalu lifted his eyes to the old man. "You asked what I understand," he said. His voice was steady, but the case in his hand pulsed with his heartbeat. "I understand rivers. They run until something colder stops them." Oluwa smiled without warmth. "And what is colder than money, Adeyemi?" "Memory." Kalu said, "You taught me that." He let the sentence settle. Then he made his choice. Very softly, almost like a father soothing a child awake, he said, "Mama's song." On the ward bathroom floor across the island, a taped phone blinked to life beneath a pink plastic stool. The lapel pin on Kalu's chest sent the warehouse, faces, rifles, the old man's rings, into a cloud beyond Oluwa's reach. The feed split in three. Alpha servers, two international outlets AO had trusted, and the anti-corruption unit in Abuja, whose inbox AO had used 4 years ago and never heard back from. In the same breath, Kalu lifted his free hand to chest height, fingers spread. It was not surrender. It was time. Outside the warehouse, Tara watched the lookout's hand slice the air. One sweep for men moving a hospital, 2 taps for door breach imminent, fist to heart for go on code. She touched her throat mic twice, not to speak, but to click. The click carried down a line of eyes and bodies. No radios, only agreed movement. At St. Gregory, the 2 men in fluorescent vests set down their tool bags. The closer one tapped his wrist too short, one long. "Pattern." Nia eased the ward door halfway, closed at her hip, and said to the children, voice calm, "Shoes on." Pink stool. They moved as she trained them, Zuri sliding off the bed, Zion grabbing Zane's hand. Nia knelt, lifting the stool, tugging free the taped phone and the spare key card she put there a month ago. She pressed the card into Zuri's palm. "You're the leader." Straight to the laundry room. "Sing if you're scared." 2 notes. Zuri whispered. 2 notes. Nia breathed. Then she stood and smiled at the men in vests like it was visiting hour. Back in the warehouse, Oluwa's head tilted, almost impressed. "Code words," he murmured. "Little tricks." He extended his hand again. The other 2 Adeyemi Kalu kept his feet planted. "Outside," he repeated. She stand between us. We walked to the door. Then I hand them. The cleft-chin officer chuckled. "You are not negotiating." "Let him believe he is," Oliver said gently. "Pride carries weight. Too heavy, and men fall through their own floor." He gestured. One of the gunmen cut Adana's bonds and shoved her toward Kalu. She stumbled. Kalu caught her by the elbow, and for a heartbeat Ao's face stood between them like a light caught in glass. "Don't give him anything real," Adana whispered. "Already sent," Kalu said back, as if telling her the time. They walked 5 meters. 4. Kalu could feel the rifles move with them like eyes. At 3 meters, the ceiling popped with a sound like a knuckle crack. Everyone flinched upward. Tara's rope fell through the skylight like a thin white river. Nothing else came. The men's rifles snapped toward the roof. "Show me," Oliver said without looking up. Kalu raised a second clone chip. "Outside," he said again. His mouth was dry as chalk. He swallowed. He thought of the triplets humming. A groan sounded from the far loading door. It rolled on its track 1/2 meter, then stopped, jammed on a wedge only someone here could have set. The cleft-chin officer swore under his breath. "Who?" Kalu chose the noise. He shoved Adana sideways hard and threw the case like a stone at the guard beside Olawu. It burst open on his chest, harmless plastic and foam. For 1/2 a heartbeat, every eye tracked the debris scattering across the concrete, like birds. Tara's team didn't come through the skylight. They blew the sidewall. The shock wave slapped the room flat, a burst of dust and air that turned the light brown and thick. Rifles barked blind. Kalu let the blast pick him up and throw him sideways behind a column, dragging Adana down with him. He covered her head with his forearm and heard, as if down a hall, the old man's calm voice say, "Don't fire faces. Take their legs." The cleft-chin officer fired low at the shadow by the new hole. A grunt answered, then a thud. Tara slid through the dust like she was born in smoke, a baton in one hand, catching the officer's wrist and turning it with speed that made the joint pop. His gun clattered. Her other hand planted a square of black plastic on his radio. It crackled, then died, jammed. 2 of Olawa's men charged. Tara didn't stay. She dove behind the next pillar as Alpha's second operative rolled a flash at their feet. White, ringing. Someone cursed in Yoruba. Kalu squeezed his eyes shut and counted to 3. When the light fell back into being, the room had moved. One of the rifles lay on the floor untended. Adana crawled for it, and Kalu dragged it to his lap with her. He didn't fire. He didn't know, in this fog, at whom he could. Oliver stood where he had been, dust on his shoulders like ash on a saint. His gaze found Kalu first, then the pin on Kalu's chest. His face changed, small only, but enough for triumph to find Kalu's ribs. "You already sent us to the river," Kalu said hoarsely. "Smile for Abuja." Oliver's eyes flicked past him, toward the door, as if measuring distance to tide. "Do you think men who build rivers drown in them?" he asked softly. "Now that the banks are honest," Adana said, rising in a single clean motion, the confiscated rifle now trained at his feet. "On your knees." At St. Gregory, the first man in the fluorescent vest reached for the ward door. Nia stepped into the gap, rolling a linen cart with one hand and the other flat on the jamb. "Laundry collection," she said briskly. "You'll need to sign." He tried to push past. She didn't resist. She yielded the smallest space and turned. The cart handle slammed into his thigh. He folded. The second man grabbed for her. Nia's elbow went into his ribs. He wheezed, surprised. Men like him presumed women like her lived in soft rooms. She caught his wrist, twisted, and ran him face first into glass, hard enough to spider it. The corridor erupted. Nurses screaming, a guard sprinting, the 2 internal officers drawing down. The first fluorescent man reached for his bag. Nia kicked it. A pistol slid out. The nearest officer saw it and did not hesitate. Bang! The hospital's alarm punched the air. The second man dropped. The first curled, breathless. Nia scooped the pistol away and slid on her knees to the ward door. "Out," she told the children. "Like we practice." They came. silent except for the to-know hum like a wire under tension. Zuri held the key card flat against her stomach, small jaw set. Nia shepherded them down the service stair. Well, as more uniforms thundered up, Tara's text came to her phone in one word: live. In the warehouse, Oliver's knees met concrete. The cleft-chin officer spat blood and tried to stand. Tara placed her boot on his wrist and looked down at him the way a teacher looks at a boy caught cheating. "Estate gate last night," she said over the ringing. "You cut video for 90 seconds when the SUV rolled. You helped her out. Then you helped him back in." She leaned, and pain washed his face. "Why?" He didn't answer. She didn't need him to. The pin on Kalu's chest watched his silence and sent it with a timestamp and a badge number to people who had, 2 hours ago, thought they were clever. Sirens bled into the port. The estate forced federal cars, and behind them, 2 vans from the anti-corruption unit, summoned by a link they could not unclick. The loading door shuddered, then slid up another quarter. A megaphone outside said a name it had learned from the video 10 minutes earlier: Chief Banko Olawu, hands visible. Olawu closed his eyes like a man in church. "You think tides come from my house?" he asked, almost kindly. "They will," Kalu said. He felt very tired and very awake. He reached into his pocket and took out the last clone chip. He held it up so Olawu could see it. "They will, because she told the world where the river begins." Adana lowered her rifle. She was looking at him, really looking, for the first time since she'd broken into AO's study. "She believed you could still choose," she said. "I didn't. I chose late," Kalu said. "But I chose." The door finished his complaint and rose another foot. Federal officers flowed in measured, knees bent, eyes hard. They took the men first, one by one, rifles skittering. They took the cleft-chin officer, who stopped pretending to be confused and stared at the floor. They took the old man last, gently, because power makes men old and old makes men delicate. They put soft cuffs on his wrists. He did not fight. He watched Kalu the entire time. "Rivers flood," he said. "Banks hold," Kalu answered. It was mid-afternoon when the hospital released the triplets into a safer building with thicker cameras. Nia did not leave their side. Zane slept with his mouth open the way he had as a baby. Zion asked once in a whisper if Mama would be proud. Zuri set the pink elephant blanket across all 3 of them like a roof. Adana sat in a borrowed hoodie near the window, hands wrapped in bandages, eyes red but clear. Tara stood in the doorway and read the first line from Abuja off her phone. Joint Task Force formed to investigate kickbacks in the Marble Pipeline deal. Another message came, this one from Accra, another from Washington. Names spilled, accounts woke. The list AO had made became more than paper. Kalu went to the small hospital chapel, the one with 1 window and 1 candle. He did not pray with words. He set his phone on the pew and watched the river AO had started run everywhere his fear once stood. He let the guilt he'd carried like a stone sit beside him and not on him. When he came back, the children woke. He knelt. "You were brave," he said. "Braver than me." Zuri leaned forward. We sang. "I heard you," he said, and it was true, even if only in his bones. He stood and faced Nia. "I meant what I said. Head of family security. Not as cover. As command. With a salary that shows what you carried for us before I saw it." Nia shook her head once like she might say no. Then she nodded, small. "We will do it properly," she said. "No more secrets in the walls. Cameras where everyone can see. Patterns the children can name." Adana exhaled. AO would have liked that. They sat together until the light softened. The city outside went on counting money and boiling peppers and cursing traffic, as cities do when storms pass without asking permission. A week later, Kalu stood before cameras, the kind the whole world sees, not the ones hidden in ceilings. He said the names and the numbers. He said the word sorry once. Thin compared to the weight of years, but true. He said his wife's name twice. He set up a foundation in that name to train nurses and fund whistleblowers, because one woman's fearlessness deserved more hands. That night, in the quiet, he walked past a wall in his house where a small black that used to be and saw nothing there but paint. He paused in the nursery. The triplets were tangled in their sleep. The pink elephant blanket lay like a soft hill. He did not lift it. He did not need to. He turned, and in the glass of the dark window he saw himself, not a billionaire, not a man chased by rivers, just a father who had finally stepped where truth ran. Behind him, from 3 small throats, without waking, the hum rose. 2 notes, 1 promise, and went back down into dreaming.